And welcome to Study English with Sarah. Let's look at this week's article. About 15% of New Zealand-born people now live overseas. So what really happens to the bond between grandparents and grandchildren when the distance grows? In this lesson, you're going to read a really touching article about families separated by distance, practice some multiple choice practice questions, pick up 8 really useful vocabulary words. I think this topic will resonate with many of you, especially those of you living away from your own families. Let's get started. Here's what we're going to cover today. First, you'll read an article about grandparents and the challenges of maintaining family bonds across distance. Then you'll practice IELTS multiple choice questions. After that, we'll go through some new vocabulary. And finally, you'll repeat these words for pronunciation practice. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a lesson. Before we start, a little personal note from me. Living in Japan for so many years taught me a lot about living away from family. I missed birthdays, prize givings, celebrations, and get-togethers. It is something that both my husband and I have been very conscious of with our own children. They have a great relationship with their grandparents now, despite living in different countries and cities, but it has taken a lot of work. This week's article looks at the same issue from another angle. The grandparents left behind when their own children and grandchildren move overseas. It's a topic that's close to my heart, and I think many of you will recognize it too. Now let's read the article. I'll read each paragraph aloud. Feel free to pause the video and read along at your own pace. Grandparents from afar. With about 15% of New Zealand-born citizens now living overseas and more people having children later than in previous generations, families separated by distance are becoming increasingly common. For grandparents, the distance can feel especially difficult. Author and social anthropologist Helen Ellis, who has 6 of her 7 grandchildren living overseas, says distant grandparenting is often invisible. Because friends and neighbors rarely see these grandparents with their grandchildren, she explains that it can feel like a hidden part of who they are. Despite the physical distance, researchers say grandparents can have a powerful influence on a child's development. Massey University psychology professor Kirsty Ross explains that grandparents can support a child's emotional resilience, sense of identity, and overall well-being, particularly between the ages of 8 and 12, when children notice a grandparent's absence more strongly. Ross adds that grandchildren often find it easier to open up to grandparents than to parents, since the relationship usually feels calmer and less emotionally charged. Keeping the relationship strong from a distance is not always easy. Alice notes that success usually depends heavily on the parents, who act as gatekeepers between grandparents and grandchildren. Technology can help bridge the gap, but only when both generations know how to use it confidently. Time zone differences, language barriers, and cultural gaps add further challenges, meaning that grandparents overseas often face more obstacles than grandparents living in the same country. Even so, many families find ways to stay connected, whether through letters, care packages, video calls, or shared hobbies passed down between generations. Cross-cultural family advocate Mickey Brooks says the responsibility to connect lies with the adults, not with the children. For many young people, losing a grandparent overseas can also be their first real experience of grief, which is why experts encourage families to record stories and memories now before it becomes too late. Now it's time to test your understanding. We have 6 multiple choice questions. Let's start with the first 2. Choose the correct letter, A, B, C, or D. Remember, wrong answers are often designed to sound reasonable, but don't match with what the article actually says. Pause the video now and answer questions 1 and 2. Here are questions 3 and 4. Go back and reread the article carefully before you choose your answer. Pause now and answer questions 3 and 4. And here are your final 2 questions. Read carefully to make sure you understand the exact wording. Pause the video now and try questions 5 and 6. How did you do? Multiple choice questions can be tricky because the wrong answers often sound very reasonable. They just don't match what the article actually says. Head to my Substack to check your answers. The link is on the screen and in the description below. If you would like access to the full lesson every week, you can join as a paid subscriber for just $5 New Zealand dollars or $3 US dollars per month. I'd love to have you over there. Now let's look at some new vocabulary from the article. Listen and repeat each word after me. Resilience, resilience, the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. Listen to it in a sentence. Grandparents can support a child's emotional resilience, sense of identity, and overall well-being. Resilience. Absence. Absence. The state of being away or not present. Listen to it in a sentence. Children between 8 and 12 notice a grandparent's absence more strongly. Absence. Emotionally charged. Emotionally charged. Full of strong feelings, sometimes making a situation tense. Listen to it in a sentence. The relationship with grandparents feels calmer and less emotionally charged than with parents. emotionally charged, gatekeepers, gatekeepers, people who control or manage access between two groups. Listen to it in a sentence. Parents act as gatekeepers between grandparents and grandchildren. Gatekeepers. Bridge the gap. Bridge the gap. To connect two things that are separated. Listen to it in a sentence. Technology can help bridge the gap, but only when both generations use it confidently. Bridge the gap. Obstacles. Obstacles. Things that make it harder to achieve a goal. Listen to it in a sentence. Grandparents overseas often face more obstacles than those living in the same country. Obstacles. Grief. Grief. Deep sadness or sorrow, especially after a loss. Listen to it in a sentence. Losing a grandparent overseas can be a young person's first real experience of grief. Grief. Advocate. Advocate. A person who publicly supports a cause or a group of people. Listen to it in a sentence. Cross-cultural family advocate Mickey Brooks says the responsibility to connect lies with the adults. Advocate. And that's it for today. I hope this lesson has made you think about the important people in your life, wherever they are in the world. If you're living away from family, give them a call today. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the new lesson each week. You can find the full lesson, answer explanations, and audio practice over at studyenglishwithsarah.substack.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. The links are on the screen. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.